Line's good.
Never on!
Whoa.
Hard! Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
I hear high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
Sean, hey, what's up? I'm finding it hard to keep my office clean for these video clips that we do.
Yeah, why is that? What do you
'cause
normally have?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff piled, but it's like just off the camera, so I have to
Right.
shove it all to one side. Back from some trips and travels put together. So trying to unpack, do the laundry, get my work done. It's a whole scene, man.
A lot going on.
Lots going on. That's for sure.
Yeah. I focus on my background too, and I'm very proud that I've the new edition. I will put a clip up from this episode if you want to see, but I have my great Lucille Ball cigarette advertisement that I've added to my wall, sort of just over my left shoulder, which I very much enjoy using for that. I have two different backdrops depending on which side of the table I'm on for meetings and the other podcast and this one. It just really depends on how I'm feeling, but I think I've kind of figured it out.
Yeah, that's nice to have figured out. I've got sort of these curling posters that you got for me.
Yep.
I got a suit and a sweater hanging up there. So lots going on.
It only took 2.5 years or however the hell long it's been to figure out meeting background.
Yeah. There you go.
We made it. So let's get into the goings on this week from the world of curling before we get into the bulk of what our episode is going to be. The season, I'm calling the season over, Scott. It's finally over. We made it. The 2021-2022 season is done. The World Junior Curling Championships took place over in Jönköping, I believe, back in Sweden. Is that right, Scott?
It's pronounced Jönköping.
Oh, excuse me.
And I think that's where it was, yeah. Or was it in Finland? No, it was in Jönköping.
Yes, you're right. No, sorry, yes, it was in Lohja, Finland. You're right.
Finland, yeah.
Yeah, something else was in Jönköping. Maybe
it was
the seniors, maybe. No, this was World Curling Junior.
Oh.
Yeah, World Junior Curling Championship in Sweden. Yeah, so just wrapped up on the 22nd, and congratulations go out on the men's side. We have Scotland winning the World Championship. They take the final 7-1 over Germany, and on the bronze medal side, Canada with a 13-4 victory over the Norwegians. So congratulations to the medalists there. Over on the women's side, somewhat of a historic moment, Scott, as Japan captures their first ever world championship on the women's side, beating Sweden 7-4 in the final. The Americans take home the bronze with a 10-6 win again over the Norwegians. A tough playoff run for the Norwegians there in the World Juniors. But hey, they made the playoffs. So congratulations to them for that. So always a fun event at the juniors. I was a little disconnected from it this year, I have to say, because of just when it was in the calendar, when they had to reschedule it. It's not in its normal time. It's hard to really follow closely in May, for me at least. So I'll just say that.
Yeah. I think we're probably speaking for everybody when it comes to us saying that, oh boy, that it's May. We're still talking about curling. It's getting hot. I've had my air conditioner on, Sean. Oops. As I try to plug my computer back in. But lots to follow, and honestly probably a little too late into the season.
But congratulations to those medalists. A point of interest here for Canada, something that I don't know if this has ever happened on any level before. Maybe it has, but On the women's side, Canada goes 3-6 and finishes in a 3-way tie for 7th place with Scotland and Korea. Denmark finished last in the round robin at 1-8. But because of a little quirk this year, there are 4 teams that are being relegated down to the B because next year's World Junior Curling Championship is taking place in Germany. The German women did not qualify for this year's event. As a result, instead of the normal 3 teams going down to B, 4 teams went down to B, which meant nobody lost out on tiebreakers or draw to the button or anything like that. But the Canadian women next year will now have to go through the B event to qualify for the World Junior Curling Championship. Somewhat fortuitous, I suppose, that Curling Canada has changed the timing of the juniors because the team that just won will now get to go and play in that B event. Whereas in the past, when you had the World Juniors in January going right to the World Junior Curling Championship, that might have been an interesting decision on who you send. So this year, you don't really have that issue. And maybe that is part of potentially the thinking that Curling Canada had, even though it wasn't said as much in the announcement when they moved the Canadian Junior Curling Championship to the spring. So kind of an interesting note there, Scott.
I think that's maybe a little generous in your interpretation. Like, I don't think Curling Canada ever thought that they would get relegated to the B pool.
No, I probably
not. No. So saying that this was part of their master plan, that's pretty generous.
But it works out that there's really no question now who's going to that event. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that means an extra step next year for the gold medalist of Taylor Stevens and her team that just won that Canadian Junior Championship not that long ago, at some point in April. So, another chance to wear the maple leaf at an event. Hopefully for them that they'll get to go to 2 events.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And this is not to be critical of Isabelle Ladouceur and her team. This is a good field, right? Go 3-6. From all accounts, they lost a couple really close games, sort of nip and tuck, could have gone any way. It's just sort of the way it falls. And, as we say, the other teams, I guess, normally I would say, the other team drives nice cars when we're talking about pro sports. But one, these are juniors, so maybe they don't drive nice cars. I don't know. The other team has nice brooms too. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's a little wrap on the World Junior Curling Championship. Now that the season is done, we feel like we've said that like the past 4 weeks. This season is done, but we are fully into the summer schedule now. One of my favorite times of the year when we get to talk about some different things. And we're going to start off this week talking about the Grand Slam of Curling. Scott, this event or this series of events has been around a while, and I feel like it suffers from sameness, that each one is the same. I don't really know what differentiates one from the other. So I've gone through and I've come up with what I think are interesting ways to distinguish the events, give them each their own identity that goes well beyond the logos or the colors, or in some cases, even just the way in which you select the teams. So I have some ideas here that I want to run past you.
I'm excited.
All right. Now, Scott, before we get into it, do you agree with me that the Grand Slams could use some adjustments to make them more interesting?
For the fans, yes. I think for the players, these are big cash events. That's it. They're basically cash events. You go and try to make your money back, and then this is where you earn your big paydays throughout the year. So from the player's perspective, I don't think anything needs to change. They're probably happy with, if we get 2 wins, we'll make some money and go home happy. But from the perspective of somebody watching these events and saying like, why am I going to watch this when it all looks the same as anything else on TV? Then yeah, it definitely needs to change, because I don't know which one's which when they're playing it even, right? maybe you'll talk about this, but when you're watching a golf tournament, you know which one is the Masters because of the way it looks on TV. So there's definitely a sameness to these events, and I'm excited to hear some of your ideas.
Yeah, and I feel this way, like when you look at the golf majors, that the Masters, you're at Augusta, it has that feel to it. The British Open, usually on a links course, usually get that wild weather where you have guys who are sweating because it's 40 degrees at one point, and then 40 minutes later they're in their toques and stuff because it's raining and windy. And then you have the US Open, which is billed as like the toughest one. And then you have the PGA, which is, I think, to me, it's marked by the fact that you get like those club pros that are there, and sort of has a different vibe to it, but it's certainly the lesser of all of them. And then even on the tennis side, you have the surfaces, right? So Wimbledon's on grass, the French Open is on clay, and the two that are on hard court, you have the New York one that has that real New York vibe. You get those late night matches that go to like 2 a.m., people screaming. And then the Australian Open is really just a test to see who will not die from heat exhaustion, and whoever doesn't really gets to lift the trophy is kind of how that one works. But they all do have their own specific identity to them that the Grand Slams here don't. And part of that is just the reality of the surface, right? Golf, you can go to different courses. Tennis, you can play on the different surfaces. Curling is a curling sheet, right? There's not really so much you can do to change that up. So there's other things you have to do. But Scott, you mentioned when these things happen. So I want to ask you two questions. This was a game that somebody played with me. Can you name first the title sponsor for each event, and second, put the events in order
on the calendar?
Yeah.
Yes, I think I can. Let's try.
Okay.
Are we just doing are we doing the 4 major ones or the 7?
Well, there's only 6 now.
Oh yeah, 6. So the first, I'll say, fine then. The Elite 10 done, gone.
Yes.
Okay, so to start the schedule, we're going to have the Boost National.
You are correct. Next year will be October 4th to the 9th in North Bay, Ontario, at the Gardens.
At the Gardens. So the Boost National. Follow that up with the Masters.
No,
and
I'm so sorry. That is incorrect.
I'm already out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just see if I can name them all.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got Boost National.
Yeah.
I've got a Masters one. I don't know the sponsor right away. It's not called the Canada Cup anymore, right? It's called the
It was never
Challenge
called
Cup.
It was never called the Canada Cup.
Oh,
the Canada Cup is a curling Canada event.
Oh, right. The Canadian Open is not
Correct.
called the Canadian Open anymore.
Correct.
And who sponsors that one? Is that some kind of agriculture?
It's Meridian.
Yeah. They make silos, grain silos.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I've named 3.
Yeah, and I'll say too, there is no title sponsor for the Masters. It's just the Masters. So you didn't miss anything.
Okay. There is no.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So then you've got the Champions Cup.
Correct. It's the last
I
one,
believe used to be sponsored by Humpty's, but I don't think it is anymore.
It is not. But yes, you are correct. It used to be.
It's
now sponsored by Coyote Tractor.
The Coyote Tractor.
Yeah.
One. And then so I talked about the Champions Cup, and then the Players Championship.
Yep.
Which is sponsored by
it's a pretty common one in curling right now. With a lot of teams.
Hortons.
No, a lot of teams have this logo on them.
A lot of teams.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Is it Goldline?
No, it is Princess Auto.
Princess Auto. That was going to be the one I guessed for the other event that I don't remember.
The other event that you don't remember is the Tour Challenge, with a new title sponsored. It's the Hearing Life Tour Challenge. And just to go in order, it goes National, Tour Challenge, Masters, Open, Players Championship, Champions Cup.
So and the first 3 are before Christmas, yeah?
Yeah, so it goes the National this year from the 4th to the 9th, and then just over, 9 days later, the Tour Challenge starts the 18th of the 23rd of October, and then the Masters right after the Canada Cup. It will be played in Oakville, Ontario from December 6th to the 11th. And then January 10 to 15, 2023, out in Camrose is the Open. And then the Players' Championship, as always, at the Mattamy Athletic Center in Toronto from April 11 to the 16th. And May 2nd to 7th, may God have mercy on our souls, the Champions Cup will take place out in Regina.
Again into May. Wow.
Again into May, yeah. So there you have that. That's the schedule for next year. So Scott, I've gone through and I'm leaning into the names that the Grand Slam has given to these events to come up with ways to alter them a little bit.
Okay. Makes sense.
Is what I've done here. So let's go in order of the events taking place. So let's start with the Boost National. So Scott, I want to lean in to the idea of the National. And part of this is taking a little bit from that World Cup that we used to have, but making it a little bit, I think, better, and allowing for different disciplines into the Grand Slam series. So what we're going to do here is it's kind of like a Ryder Cup ish situation where each country is represented by a men's team, a women's team, a mixed doubles team, and a wheelchair team. So each of the Olympic, Paralympic disciplines. And we do head-to-head matchups. So the men's team plays the men's teams, the women's plays the women's teams, and so on and so forth. And there's 4 sheets on the ice. So this matchup is taking place across 4 games in one draw. So like the draw is Canada against the United States. And then all 4 of the disciplines are on the sheet at once. 1 point for the win. And if there is a tie, so if the teams go 2-2 against each other, the tie break is going to be the total number of points, the point differential.
Ooh.
Yes. So what we would do here is we would take the aggregate national rankings for each of the disciplines and come up with the top 10 countries. And the invite would go to the top ranked team in that country on the world rankings. So no governing bodies are involved in this. This is pure invite by the Grand Slam, but that's the selection process. So whoever's ranked number 1 in Canada right now in these disciplines, that's who gets invited. And those are the teams that come in. We have, so with 10 countries, each team will play 4 matchups starting Tuesday. You play 1 matchup a day. You need 5. You can do 5 draws, I think, if you start early enough, stay late enough. Then you can do 5 draws a day if you work it out. You can start Monday if you needed to, but I don't think you do. And therefore, you have your matchups, and then it takes you into the playoffs, which works the exact same way. Whereas this, though, you have just semifinals and finals.
Okay. So if every draw is 1 match, you say if you start Tuesday morning, you can fit all of these in to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then semifinal.
No, you don't need Saturday if you do 5 draws a day. If you're only going to do 4 draws a day, then you do need Saturday potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you only have a semifinal and a final,
that works.
I think that works to do it on Saturday. Plus, we haven't seen Sportsnet televise anything until Thursday anyway.
Yeah. And I think one of the pushbacks that you would get potentially is, well, all right, this event is going to take place in Canada. Will people come out and watch, be interested in a matchup that is Switzerland against Japan? And my argument back would be, well, I've been told for the last 5 years that you can't sell events without those teams. So yeah, you can, right? Like one of the criticisms from a lot of folks about, for one particular person about the Canadian National Championships is, well, how do you market them without the international teams. That's what's great about the slams. Well, if that's true, then you can market these events around the national, the nationness of each of these teams, and have that representation mean something, and market it around that. Because this would be a truly unique thing. We don't have this where all the disciplines are working together and create that team feel, especially early in the season. I think there's some value to it. It's very different too. This particular format would be very different from the Continental Cup as well. So I kind of like the idea of it and would like to see how it would work.
Yeah, and so when you play your match, is it going to be aggregate score, or is it going to be 1 point per?
Yeah, so 1 point
game
per win. Each game is worth a point. So it's basically 4, and then if it's tied 2-2, then it goes to the aggregate. You can also maybe have ties, but that's less fun. I like just go to the aggregate.
Yeah, go to the aggregate. I kind of like the idea of an aggregate where is incentive to stay in the game, even if you're really destroying someone's soul, I guess.
Just taking their soul right out of their body. Yeah. So yeah, and so therefore the winner wouldn't be a team, it would be a country wins the national.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Like that.
All right. So that's my idea for the national. Again, leaning into the name that has been assigned to it.
Yes, that's the name. Let's lean into it. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the schedule is, of course, the Masters. Now, Scott, the Masters in golf is the most prestigious event. I would argue, therefore, in curling, it should be the toughest event to win. So what I would do with the Masters is I would say that you get the top 8 teams in the world, men's and women's, based on the rankings. Those are your invites, 8 teams. It is a full 7-game round robin. I would end it there. I know Sportsnet wouldn't go for that, so I want to be as realistic as possible. So only 2 teams make the final. So the round robin goes through Saturday night, and then you have your finals on Sunday. No other playoffs. Make it the toughest event to win. Only the best teams, full round robin, 2 teams to the final. I think that makes it the most difficult event. I think that even, certainly because it would have the international teams, it makes it harder than a world championship. It makes it harder than the Canada Cup. This becomes, to me, the premier event because it is really only the best of the best.
I like it, Sean. Is there any way to extend it to 10 teams? Just because right now you're getting 15 teams, men's and women's, into these events. I could see pushback from the players saying, hey, what the heck? You're cutting half the spots for this event. Is there any way in the schedule to push it to 10 and still do a full round robin? I like the full round robin.
I don't think you can. Not based on how they currently schedule things. So you need 9 draws. So you need 18 total draws. That's going to be more than what they currently allot for. So I know I'm taking away playoff draws on Saturday, but I think that'd be a little much. I mean, you could, but one of the things I know the players won't like it, but one of the reasons I don't want to go to 10 either is that I think 8 to me is the good number of, like, you've got to be really good. It's only the best who are here. And if you're in 9th place in the world rankings, well, that's too bad. Like, this is the best of the best.
Can I then say that if you really want to make it the best of the best, make it 10 teams and make it a full round robin, and that's it. No championship game.
Well, Sportsnet wouldn't do that.
Well, I'm saying the players wouldn't go for the other. So, like, if you can invoke Sportsnet won't do that.
Well, Sportsnet owns it. The players don't own it. Where the players going to buy it? Like, the top 8 are not going to go because the 9th and 10th place teams aren't there.
No, but I'm saying, like, at 10, I think is the right number. I think 8 is a little not enough.
Okay,
it's a little too few.
All right, let's go to 9. I'll give you 9.
All right,
8-game round robin. I'll give you that.
Good.
But yeah, but I really want to keep this as the hardest event to win.
Okay.
No.
I agree. I think it should be the hardest event to win. Yeah. And most of the time it is the hardest event to win.
I don't know why. How's it different from?
Well, no, events? I mean, in golf, in golf, the Masters. Yeah.
Right.
So it should be.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the Tour Challenge. This one, of course, has the main draw and then the other draw for the teams that are like the next 15 invites. So last time they did it, it was 15 teams in the main, 15 teams in the B side. I don't even know what they call it, but let's call it the B side. I'm getting rid of that. I'm still keeping the 30 teams, but I'm getting rid of the A and the B draw. And again, I'm leaning into the challenge side of this, Scott.
Ooh.
Not the TV show, but I guess that would be fun too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have now the 30 teams, men's and women's. I'm going to combine the two draws into 5 groups of 6. Here's where I think it gets fun, though, is the top 5 ranked teams in men's and women's get together and they have a draft to pick the pools that they want. So they are
Ooh.
essentially challenging the 5 other teams in their pool. You turn this into a little bit of either a TV show or a social media something. You really gin it up that you can have these teams basically saying, this is who I want here and who I don't want to play in my pool. So we have that the day before the event starts. That's how the pools are drafted. And then in the playoffs, say I'm cool. We'll go to the 8 teams here for quarterfinals down. But when we get to the quarterfinals, the team that finished first overall picks who they want to play. The team who finished second gets to pick. So, and then we do that again in the semifinals. That whoever's the top ranked team left picks their opponent. So you really lean into this challenge idea, and you kind of maybe gin up a little bit of the rivalries potentially, or see who's going to duck who maybe. That's the idea here, that you just, this one is more about generating more engagement, more social media stuff, and sort of the shoulder programming type of thing around this event, while also bringing in that tier 2. Oh, that's what they call it, the tier 2. The tier 2 folks into the main draw.
Okay. I really like this. I think Pete Stetsky is going to have a fun time emceeing that that draw, pick your pool kind of thing. I do wonder if there's maybe going to be not enough good competition games if you make it an entire field of 30 without splitting the event in 2. It's my only pushback.
Right. Maybe like that certainly potentially would be an option or something that could happen as a result. But okay.
And
like
then
happen.
I guess, well, the other thing is the logistics of it, right? You've got to have 2 venues.
Yeah, but they do that anyway already.
They do, but they have all the tier 2 games are at a tier 2 venue, shall I say?
Yeah.
Like
Well, what they've done in the past, I think when it was in the Sioux, and someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, it was either the Sioux or Thunder Bay, where basically it was an arena that had 2 sides, like, or 2 arenas that had like a central thing, right? So you could do that, and one side is the TV side, and one side isn't the TV side. So you have a venue like that, I think it could still work, and you just ensure that one, like everyone plays here, so you're going to play 5 games, so it's slightly mixed between the 2. I still think it could work, that because they have the 2 venues anyway for this event, I don't see that as a huge logistical issue.
Okay. You've answered my concerns. Yeah, I love the challenge idea. That's great.
Let's challenge each other. All right. Now, next up on the schedule is the Open, formerly the Canadian Open, now just the Open. Scott, I'm going to make this an open event.
Hey.
Right? So the way I would do this is you're going to take 18 teams, men's and women's, are going to qualify for it. I'll say the top 9 teams in the world get the automatic invite. If someone says no, it goes down to the next team on the list. Everybody else, the other half of the field, qualifies. Now, I've gone back and forth on how the qualifiers could look. Is it qualifying through certain events? Is it qualifying? No, we're having actually open qualifiers that anybody can sign up for. So I would run, this is where it gets expensive.
Okay.
You have 1 qualifier in the United States, 2 qualifier events each in Asia and Europe, in obviously different places, and 3 qualifying events in Canada. And that gets you to the 4 qualifying events in Canada, and that gets you to the 9 additional qualifiers.
Okay. So run that back for me again, Sean. You're going to have 9 additional qualifiers in addition to the 15 teams that we already have?
No, 9 teams, the top 9 in the world automatically qualify.
Okay.
And then
Plus
the
9
next 9
qualifiers.
spots. So we're going to have 8 teams. We're going to have 3 pools of 6 here
Yeah.
within the event itself. And we're going to have 9 additional qualifiers coming out of these events.
I like this. I think you should be able to run these qualifiers at any kind of curling club. It doesn't need to be at an arena. And the idea that anyone can enter is great. I would make the fee substantial for this to avoid having, our team just put in for it, because then it can get a little unwieldy with so many teams wanting to enter. But if you set it at like a $2,000 entry fee or something, or $2,500, I think you'll still get the teams that, knowing they can go there, win one game, and get that money back, makes sense.
Yeah, that might be a little high. I might put it at like 1,000, because then you get like the guys who play some events on tour but don't play a lot, or aren't really normally aiming at a slam, but hey, maybe here's a chance to just go try for it. Maybe that price range. I don't want it to only be the teams that could reasonably make it to a Grand Slam who would put in. Right? I want some other teams around. Right.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll have to figure out what that number is. What's that magic number? But
yeah, whatever that magic number is. Yeah.
I like it though.
All right. Then we go through the season of champions, the world championships, the national championships here in Canada, at least. And then we get to the 2 last events on the Grand Slam schedule. That would be, first up, the Players Championship. Scott, I'm not going to do too much to this one because it is the players event. So this is one, if the players have strong thoughts, I would just let the players do whatever they want here a little bit. But here's what I might suggest for the Players Championship. I would just do top 15 here. I wouldn't change the qualifying format for this. Don't mess with that. But the defending champion of the Players Championship gets to pick one rule that is in play for the week. So whether that is potentially a 6 rock rule, a no tick rule, leads aren't allowed to throw, I don't know. The defending champion gets to decide on one rule. The other thing I would do or suggest for this is have it be a skins event and have it just be like straight cash, homie. Like this is for the players. They're doing these things largely for the money. Right. It is the slams are a significant revenue source for a lot of the top teams. So let's sort of make that even more transparent and just have each game be essentially a cash game on skins.
I like this. I like this a lot. Skins had to be a part of this, Sean. Has to be a part of the Grand Slam. It's fun to watch. It's interesting. You don't get blank ends when you're playing for skins. It's
or shorter games.
Skill. Yeah, skill is required. It's just all around great.
Yeah.
And making it the players is a really good idea because, like you say, this is the financial arm is the Grand Slam, and having the ability to win big money at skins, I think would be very appealing to the players.
Yeah, and especially at that time of year too. I think for fans, when we look at the last few events after the World Championship, is like what kind of keeps us interested, what sort of hooks us, and seeing cash on the board maybe makes that more interesting rather than just here's the team that won the World Championship and a bunch of teams that didn't just win the World Championship. Yay. Right? Like maybe that just adds another layer for the fans to be like, hey, like this is a $1,500 draw right here in the second end. Like that's a lot of money. Right. So
yeah, it is definitely different. It makes it different than every other event.
Yeah. And again, since it's after the World Championship, I feel a little better making it the skins, like, because now we're into kind of the fun part of the schedule, the fun season. So let's have it there.
Let's do it. I like it.
All right. And last up, the Champions Cup, which let's get this back in April, please. But let's talk about what it's going to be. The Champions Cup is the one that I would do the least to be honest. I like it. I like that it has the the Asia Pacific or the Pacific Asia champion has the European champion is automatically, and although that person probably be there anyway, World Junior champion. Like I like that you have all these different teams that can qualify, different ways to qualify. So I would not change anything about the Champions Cup except if there is a team that wins 2 qualifying events. Nobody else gets that spot. We're not going down to I'm not going to say an event. I don't want to insult any specific event, but we're not going down to, an event that I potentially might have shown up in, right?
Right.
That like we're not doing that. I don't want the Gordy Perry winner there. I'll insult the Gordy Perry. The Gordy Perry winner should not be able to get into the Champions Cup, which I know is not possible right now. But just go with here's the teams that won these specific events and figure out whatever your criteria is. So what if there's multiple winners? That just adjust your schedule a little bit. Maybe it's an extra game in a round robin potentially. Like who cares? But that's the only thing I would make. If it's going to be the Champions Cup, here are the events that you have to win to get into it. So that's the only thing I would change. I know that one's not feasible. That's never going to happen. But out of all of them, I think the Champions Cup is the one that is the most honest in its name and the one that is kind of the most interesting, that actually does differentiate itself already from the rest of them.
Yeah, and you get some teams that you don't see all the time in this event. And, like you said, it's at the end of the year. If we want to stay engaged with curling, like let's make it truly champions only. And it should say this team won whatever to get into this event. You're right, it's never going to happen, but it would be pretty cool to see like Carrie Anderson just show up and walk over the entire field because nobody else won anything. She's the only one. And she's just like, welcome. I'm here to take all my money and the cup, please. Thank you very much.
If Carrie Anderson figures out a way to win the Pacific Asia, I know it's not an event anymore, but finds a way to win, I guess she could win now whatever they're calling the intercontinental, the transcontinental one. But if she finds a way to win the Euros, if she finds a way to win the World Juniors, good for her. Like she's she will have deserved it. Right? Like you will kind of by default have at least 4 teams. You'll have at least that. So, there's never an issue of not having enough teams. And again, if you pick events you'd pick all the slams, there's qualifier events, the World Championship is a qualifier event, Scotties, Briar, Europeans, whatever the transcontinental events, the US champion automatically gets in. If there's enough events there that you're going to at least have 8 teams every year, and certainly more if you don't want to stretch and you could go to one of the Stu cells. Sure. The autumn event, out west. Whatever that's
Oakville,
called. The Autumn Gold or
Tankard
something. Yeah. Like there's enough events on tour that you could have. You could have the Basel Masters as an event. Like you could just Baden Masters, excuse me. Like you can have enough to keep it interesting. So
I think you could.
Yeah. But like I say, that's the one I would do the least to. So those are my ideas for the slams. So again, leaning into the name. So the national becomes really a national event with the Paralympic and Olympic disciplines. The Masters becomes the hardest to win. The challenge becomes like a social media, like chirp fest, where we have more teams involved in the main draw. The Open becomes an open. The Players is all about the cash, and the Champions Cup remains largely what it is. So that's my idea, Scott, to give each of these events a little more identity and personality.
Yeah, I really like these ideas, Sean. Let's package this episode up, send it off to the Grand Slam of curling, and just see what happens, right? Why not? The Grand Slam has been around for 20 years now. I don't know what the TV numbers are like, but from talking with other curling fans, they do suffer from a sameness. Every event is the same. You get 2 wins, you're guaranteed a tiebreaker. Yeah. It's just which is which, who cares? It's a lot of who cares. And I think that these ideas to differentiate it adds a bit more of the why we should care.
Yeah, and I think really there's a gulf between the players and the fans in these events. I think if you go to the events, they're well run. The people who go really enjoy them. The players
Mhm.
are accessible. They like them. But in terms of what they mean, the players certainly value them as prestigious events that mean a lot to them when they mean them. There's no question about that. But
Yeah.
for the fans, it's clear what it means when you win the Euros, the Pacific Asians, the Brier, the Scotties, certainly the World Championship. Right? It's clear what those things mean. It's not as clear as a fan what it means to win the any event on a Grand Slam, and I have no idea why they distinguish a major from a not major and what the difference between those things is. So
Yeah.
just to make it more clear here, as to you won this type of event, this is what it means. Like, just give it some sort of, and then it's also easier to remember who won what too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the
Like you say it means a lot to the players. I remember Matt Dunstone crying when he won the national. Maybe he did. I don't know which one he won. So I remember him crying, but like, because the events are all the same. Yeah.
Give us as the fans a reason to care about it as much as the players. Maybe
Exactly.
not as much, but like more. Like that right now it feels like such an imbalance on how much the fans care about it versus how much the players care about it. That needs to be more in balance. And I don't mean to bring the players down at all. It means to bring the fans more up. Towards where the players are, and you can see it a little bit for all the problems that exist with the national championships in this country, and certainly it's been talked about to death. And there are issues with the national championships in this country. Fans go, and fans will wear their provincial stuff. You see the flags, you see people yell out. It means something to the people who are in the stands. And yes, there may be fewer people now than there used to be, but there is some meaning there, or some attachment to it. And just let's create that with the slams, because right now I don't think anyone's like, hey, like, time for the Masters. I wait all year for the Masters, right? Like, let's create that though. And that's really what we're trying to do with this one. So if you like these ideas, let us know. If you hate the ideas, also let us know. Maybe do it nicely though. But certainly do reach out. Let us know what you think of these ideas, or if you have any other ideas for what you might want to see incorporated into the Grand Slams. I think one of the greatest strengths of the slams is that they have the ability to be flexible, whether it's in format, whether it's in rules. Remember, the 5-rock rule comes out of the slams. So they have the flexibility to try things that we might want to see more regularly in the events governed by the World Curling Federation. So let's see what we can get. Let's maybe brainstorm ideas and see what we can do with the Grand Slam. So you can find us and reach out. Let us know what you think at gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com, or on Twitter, Instagram at Game of Stones Pod. Facebook is Game of Stones Podcast as well. So you can follow along with everything we got going on there. And of course, if you want more fun summer content like this, follow along wherever it is you get your podcast. Do likes, rating, comments. All that fun stuff helps other people find the show. And of course, you can visit us, gameofstonespod.com. All the past episodes are available. Plus, under the merch tab, we got the t-shirts, hoodies, toques, all that great stuff. Proceeds from the t-shirts to Food Banks Canada. Proceeds from everything else to Sandra Schmirler Foundation. We, of course, match those. I did a little donation last week or 10 days ago, whenever it was. So we are fully up to date on the matching. So if you want to get in there and get some more stuff, please do. We always like sending off those donations. So that will do it for this week. Scott, you said you were traveling. Are you settled? Are you back into Eastern time yet?
Yeah, back in the time zone, back in the saddle, feeling good, working hard.
Good stuff. Well, keep it up, buddy. And
Thanks,
we hope everyone is doing well. Certainly we had the storms here in Ontario, and some difficult pictures to look at, all the way from just north of Toronto up here to where we are here in the Ottawa Valley and into Quebec. So hope everyone is doing as well as possible under the circumstances, and sending our best to all the folks out there. So with that, we thank you all for listening. We'll be back with you again next week. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.